Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crownsmen Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me today is Gowdy Molina. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you.
Good. I woke up this morning
That's
now because
good.
everybody on the show wants to hear about my morning routine. But I woke up and I opened up my LinkedIn app and there was just notifications everywhere. What's happened? Rory did the Thursday post
Right. Yeah.
saying that Kal Tire Mining Group is on the show. Apparently, Kal Tire Mining Group is very popular on LinkedIn. So yeah, very excited to have them on the show. We're going to have Dave Allen. He is the VP of Kal Tire's Mining Tire Group Canada. Mike Weir, Operations Process Manager for Kal Tire Mining Group. So it's going to be a two-person interview, which is always fun. Before we get into it, and we have lots to get into, Gowdy,
Yes.
we've got some very good sponsors. A lot of them are past guests on the show, so it's
hmm
all sort of tying together. Who is bringing us the show today?
I think all of the sponsors today have been a guest on one of our Crownsman productions. So today we have a special segment brought to you by MNP. This is Question of the Week. And today we have Craig Burkhart. He is the National Leader of Insurance Advisory Services. And today's question is, will my insurance cover losses as a result of the recent slowdown?
The recent slowdown has impacted everyone in all companies. Many companies have sustained reduced revenue and increased cost as a result of the shutdowns and slowdowns. The short answer is there is some potential coverages. However, each policy is unique and needs to be determined on its own merits. Many policies do have outright exclusions for virus and communicable disease. However, not all policies have these exclusions. Some potential coverages are civil authority, which is loss of income when a government order shuts down a business. And secondly, business interruption and contingent business interruption, which covers the loss of income experienced due to a covered incident, and contingent business interruption, which covers loss of business when an insured incident happens to a supplier or a customer. Not surprisingly, insurers are proactively defending these claims and often denying them on the grounds of no physical damage. At the present time and for foreseeable future, courts across the US and the UK are currently considering the question of physical damage. And for the current crisis, because the implications of this are massive. In the context of a global insurance industry, one business loss is the same as hundreds of thousands of losses across the world. What you can do in the short term is one, examine your policies for potential coverages, two, determine the merits of a claim, and three, keep up to date on coverage proceedings as they transpire.
Thank you, Craig. If you'd like to know more, you can contact him at craig.burkhart@mnp.ca. You can also visit their website at mnp.ca. Alrighty, let's continue. Today we are also sponsored by KG Industries. KG Industries specializes in manufacturing specialty heavy-duty axles. If you need self-steer, forced steer, or off-highway axles, they work with companies on engineering axles for their specific needs. KGI's axles are built to outlast the service life of the equipment they are used on, with designs that make the axles easy to service. Whether you are moving mining equipment, cranes, or even rockets, KGI will help you perfect that design. You can visit kgi.ca to learn more. We also have Bellatorum Resources. Bellatorum Resources is a veteran owned and operated investment firm specializing in mineral rights acquisitions, leasing, and right of way services, curative title work, as well as other consulting services. Their leadership team is highly experienced in providing all services associated with major projects in the energy industry. To find out more, you can visit them at bellatorum.com. Of course, we also have Savannah Equipment. Savannah Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savannahEquipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And last but not least, of course, we could never forget Power Zone Equipment. When you need a specialized team of world class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And there we have it.
Remember the time we used to just have like one sponsor? Sometimes we didn't even have a
Sometimes it's
sponsor.
like
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Howdy. Hello, Dave. Hello, Mike. How are you both doing today?
Morning, Jared. Good to be here.
Doing good, Jared. Thanks for having us.
It's going to be interesting. The first time I did like one of the double interviews, I got about 3 minutes in and realized that I didn't know who specialized in each sector. So then I had to on the fly. But you guys were kind enough to actually let me know who I'm supposed to direct the questions to based on the topic. So, but first off, I want to get into just sort of your positions, just so we have a setup of where you both come from. So Dave, let's start with you. As a VP, what is sort of your sort of day-to-day in the operation?
Yeah, I am the VP for Canada for the Mining Tire Group. So that is all mines and products and service that we have in Canada. So that would also entail sales, operations at sites, Mike Weir and the operations process, how things work, and the business overall in general for Canada. There are, as we get into this, we'll probably talk about our global reach. There are other VPs in other regions that perform the same functions, but mine is primarily in Canada, and that's what I'm taking care of.
So, Mike, on your side, on the operations side, where does your role and sort of day-to-day within the Kal Tire Mining Group?
Right. So as operations process manager, I kind of look after the operational performance of our teams in Canada, primarily looking after safe work documentation, technical training, and operational performance. So that's pretty much where my focus is on a day in day out basis.
Okay, Dave, I'm going to jump over to you. I don't know if we're going to cover all the questions I have today, and if we don't, that's completely fine. But I'm going to sort of try to get through a couple of them because there's some really interesting topics that I want to cover. But first, I want to understand, like there's a Kal Tire. When I tell people that Kal Tire Mining Group is coming on, all that they hear at first is Kal Tire, and they go, "Oh, I have Kal Tire. I actually buy from them with my car." And so, first, could you distinguish the difference? They are the same brand, but what's sort of the primary difference between the two, Kal Tire and Kal Tire Mining Group?
Yeah, and it's a fair question. I mean, we get it as well. Oh, you work at Kal Tire, can I get a good set of winter tires for my car? And look, Kal Tire store division, we separate things into the store division and the mining tire group, or as we will call it, Mike and I will always call it the MTG. And that's the difference, right? Stores is retail and town stores and winter tires and summer tires and flats and passenger light vehicle tires, and we are into the mining tire group. So we are into the mines. So there is a distinction, obviously. Customer base is different and how we go about things. So we, as the mining tire group, we leverage the brand of Kal Tire as well. Kal Tire at the store level does a great job and have been for many, many years. And many people, as you said, they know Kal Tire and trust Kal Tire. So we use that to our advantage as well. We go to a mine site, they say, "Oh, we know Kal Tire. Oh, you do mining tires. Well, if you do them as well as you do your store business, we're interested to listen." So that's the distinction. It's really just retail versus mining.
I wanted to make another distinction. When you say the mining group, obviously a lot of these sites, major construction, oil and gas sector, that does the mining group must service those industries as well. Anything where you've got these commercial industrial tires.
Yeah, and because we are one group, sometimes these things can overlap. So in the store side, sales reps will call on quarries and those kind of applications where we are primarily focused on mining. So it does overlap. And when we get into this probably later and we talk about surface versus underground, we have a very good presence in open pit mining. And that's to me, that's pretty evident, right? I mean, they're giant tires. They're different than those smaller passenger tires. But when it comes to underground mining, we actually leverage a lot of our stores to help us do that work because the tires are smaller. They can be lifted and loaded and put together in the store facility. Whereas the giant tires obviously need a special setup to deliver them, to receive them, to repair them, to put them on, and also different processes, right? Where Mike comes from is that safety training process of large giant tires, also small tires, but really large giant tires. And we're talking about multi-piece wheels and multi-piece tires, and it becomes very technical and I don't want to say more dangerous, but there are different dangers and different things that we have to watch out for to ensure that we're being as safe as possible.
Different set of protocols, obviously, on that
Yeah.
type of operation. The other thing that I wanted to get a sense of as well as we go, because there's a lot of, we're going to talk a lot about sort of the servicing, some of the technical applications. You provided us with some graphs so I could actually distinguish the different types of tires. But is the global scale of the Kal Tire Mining Group? Can you touch on that quickly for the audience, just so we get
Yeah.
actually what
Yeah, and sometimes it surprises people because Kal Tire is a Canadian company, right? And people know Kal Tire as they're Canadian, but we are in 5 different regions. We have a counterpart of myself, Latin America, UK, West Africa, Southern Africa, Australia. Each location, different set of customers, maybe some similar customers. As we know, mining is a global business. So Newmont or Barrick or any of those customers, they're in multiple countries. So we could be working with them on different levels. So each region, they have their own set of customers and their own set of challenges and their own set of commodities that they deal with in the countries that they're at. Obviously, in Colombia and Latin America, it's a lot of coal. In Mexico, it could be silver or gold. Canada, it can be oil, nickel. There's a ton of no pun intended, a ton of different commodities that we work with across the globe. But what we do is for the most part, we're set up the same way, and that's where someone like Mike comes in to ensure that we're doing things the same way every time as much as we can. So putting on a tire, what we do for tire management, what we do for customers from a service perspective, how we engage customers, and how we increase their tire life. I think that's the common across all the businesses. Obviously, each region has their different challenges, as each region would and each country would.
Yeah, we cover that, especially when we get to some larger organizations on the show, seeing the different ways that they have to both carry out a consistent system, but then also be able to adapt to different regions and in different countries and different regulations and all that stuff. It's a fascinating topic all in itself. You said something about the company like Barrick. They've got mines all over the world. So not to dig into your marketing and sales strategy too much, but how is a lot of the business that you're doing globally, is it because of that the companies, let's say it's a Canadian mining company, but they've got 10 operations around the globe, and so that it sort of automatically pulls Kal Tire, or is there an active focus in these different areas like in South Africa and places?
Yeah, look, I think we service customers based on their needs in our country. I think Barrick or a Newmont or a name like that would be secondary, and just something else that might link other regions together. So no, I think it really is just based on what it is that we see in my territory in Canada, what it is that we can do for customers there. If it happens to be a customer that has other locations in other places, that can be good for us. Australian companies that we've dealt with in Australia have come into Canada. As you know, more Australian miners are starting to get into Canadian mining. So when they come to Canada, they could already have a good view of Kal Tire, and in some cases have said, "Oh no, we deal with you in Australia. Please, you deal with Kal Tire in Canada," which is great for us. But I think regionally, it's what our customer base looks like in our region. What customers can we help? Can we assist? Which ones fit with us as a customer partner? And that's how we look at business. We don't look at it as we only want the top guys. We just want to help the customers where we can.
Jared, if I could just add to that, we do have global customers for sure, and we have to certainly address their needs in a regional and country basis. But one thing that that does set us apart is when we're doing business with our global customers, they know what they're getting with Kal Tire. They're getting that Kal Tire standard and that consistency right across the board. So when we do maybe venture into a new operation for a barrack in another country, another region, we already have that structure and system set up. They know what they're getting with us, and then at that point we have to dig a little bit further and see exactly what they need within that region.
Yeah, it's that again, it's that mixture of having your system in place, but then having that adaptability based on where they are globally.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not going to take it any further. I love the topic because it's absolutely fascinating, and there's so many people, of course, that watch the show that wish that they could work all over the world. So, but there's some other stuff we want to get into. So, I want to talk a little bit about the retreading and repair facility. It's something I sort of knew vaguely of, and then I want to get into your Tom system, which I know, Mike, that's really where you specialize. But Dave, I'm just going to keep it over to you for a moment. Can you tell people about that retreading facility and that retreading and the repair?
Yeah, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit more when we talk about recycling and things like that, how to make tires last longer. But that's really what it's about. It's about taking a tire that may be at a certain point of life and breathing new life into it, whether it be a retread that would give the customer a couple more thousand hours to go on that tire, or a fairly new tire that had almost a catastrophic injury that could be repaired and put back into service. So nothing is worse than having a brand new tire 300 hours or so and getting a huge puncture of a rock in it, and then having to scrap it. So that's a big piece of our business and a big piece that I think customers are looking at, and especially when it comes to not just increasing their tire life, but also the recycling part of it and the customer, that corporate social responsibility. I think that's important too. So we have two very large retreading and facilities in Canada, one in Kamloops and one in Oshawa. We also have some repair facilities that are closer to customer needs. So we do have one in Sparwood. We also have one in Fort McMurray, and we are just starting to put one on a customer site directly. So the amount of tires that they have that need to be repaired, the volume is large enough that we can start to do this on site. And I think the part of that is great about that is it stops having to truck tires from a remote mine site to 8 hours away. So if you really want to get recycly about this, you're then saving eight hours one way and 8 hours back the other way of fuel being burned to put on transports to take truck tires back and forth. Now we can't do that everywhere. The economy of scale is tough to do that, but we're starting to look where that opportunity exists. The tough part about that is repairing tires is an art form. So when you have these large facilities doing it, obviously you have a breadth of experience, and there are guys in the retread and repair facilities with a lot of experience, and then you have to train that to bring it to somebody remotely. So that's a little bit more difficult. So we do rely again on our main facilities to do this work, and then we may have smaller satellites that can also do this work.
Yeah, again, there's so many things about this type of operation because just that training facility. I think we're actually going to get into it a little bit later, but I do want to talk about Tom's, Mike, because I had a lot of questions. I had to clarify things so I didn't put my foot in my mouth too much with this system. So I'm going to let you do the first setup. It stands for Tire Operations Management System, which is Tom's.
Yep.
Do that setup, Mike, of what the system is and sort of what the goal is for customers, especially in these mining operations.
Sure, absolutely. We're pretty proud of Tom's and the value it brings to our team members and our customers on site. And as you mentioned, it's a clever acronym for our Tire Operations Management System. And what it does basically is it's software that powers our complete tire management strategy. So to understand what Tom's does, I think we almost have to take a step back and talk a little bit more about what a tire management strategy is, and maybe a little bit more about what exactly Kal Tire does for our customers on site, if I can kind of steer that way. I'm going to take that as a yes. So if we were to boil this down to its simplest form, ultimately Kal Tire's goal is to help our customers maximize their tire investment while minimizing their equipment downtime. So we want to help them get the best value for their dollar spent and safely maximize those tires and tire related components. On the flip side, we have to understand that our customers also need to move product, they need to move ore. Okay, they're miners. That's how they make money. So they do that with their equipment running. So we need to be conscious of that downtime. So maximizing the tire investment while minimizing that equipment downtime is absolutely the key. And on top of that, we also need to recognize that no two mines or mining customers are identical. And I'm not talking about differences just between, surface mining to underground to quarry. I'm talking about two relatively similar looking surface mines. They're going to have operational variables that are unique to them. And that means that the mix of products and services that might work best for one customer isn't necessarily going to be the best mix of products and services for another customer. So what Kal Tire brings to the table is that industry expertise where we can sit down with the customers and understand their operations and understand their challenges and understand their objectives, and then talk about the services and products and overall tire management strategy that's going to work best for them. So how do we do it? I guess first off, we need to recognize that Kal Tire, does offer a full range of products and services that really sees these components through the complete life cycle of their time on site. So if we were to kind of go right back to the start of what we do for our customers, we're talking site analysis, understanding the operation, and product selection. And then we're talking procurement and actually installing these components onto equipment. And then we're talking daily tire inspections and planning and scheduling maintenance for these components, right down to tire repairs and retreading and recycling. So all of those pieces are part of the overall tire management strategy. And as Dave said, we're going to be talking about bits and pieces of those things as we go through the show today. But getting back to your question on Toms, okay? I haven't forgot your question on Toms, Jared. Okay, I haven't forgot that. Getting back to Toms, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about that planning and scheduling piece and the importance of the relationship between maximizing our customers' tire investment and minimizing that downtime. Because maximizing our customers' tire investment doesn't mean simply buying the cheapest products and hoping that they last. And minimizing equipment downtime doesn't necessarily mean, hey, let's just not do anything to that truck and keep it running and hope that it lasts. That's not the strategy. Okay, so as Dave mentioned, tires are a significant investment to our customers. And just to throw some numbers around out there, at any given time, let's say a Cat 797 could be running around a mine site in a Canadian operation with upwards of $300,000 worth of tires and wheels under it. Now, this is a significant investment to our customers, and that significant investment requires maintenance. These tires need to be continuously checked for damage and inspected on a daily basis and tracked. They need to have continuous air pressure management to make sure that they're running at the optimum pressure for the load. Just like your tires at home, these big mining tires, they need to be rotated at certain intervals and to maximize tread life. And at some point in time, although these tires are big and grand, and they take an amazing amount of abuse. These tires, in my opinion, they're engineering marvels. Absolutely, the amount of work and abuse these tires take. But at some point in time, they are going to have to come down and be taken off the machine and sent out for repair. And my point is, all of these maintenance activities that I'm talking about are all geared towards maximizing the tire investment, maximizing the life of those components. But all of these maintenance activities result in some downtime for our customer because that truck needs to come down to have that maintenance performed. And that's where the importance of planning and scheduling comes in. And that's where Tom's comes in, because because Tom's is a tire management system, Jared. And there's other tire management systems out there in the industry. Okay, but typically tire management systems tend to look at historical data. Okay, they say, okay, well, that's why the truck came down, and that's what was wrong with the tire, and that's what we did to it, and that's what it cost, and that's how long it was down for. With Tom's, we saw an opportunity to improve upon the service efficiency for our customers, and so with Tom's, we designed software that had the capability to look ahead and focus more on that planned and predictive maintenance. So all of our tire inspections and all of our site analysis and all of our tire condition reports and our rotation targets and our retreading targets, all of that stuff is put into Tom's. And then Tom's helps us to identify and prioritize the work that has to be done. We then simply take that and overlay that against our customers' maintenance and operation schedules, and then we can find the opportune time, the best time to conduct that maintenance. So what Tom's does, and I know I'm rambling, but this is important, I'm going to wrap this up. What Tom's does for us is it gives us what we call a 360-degree view of our operations and our tire management activities. It gives us that historical reporting for sure, which is important to understand, what's happened, but it also gives us a current view of the components that are running on site for our customers. And it also gives that forward-looking view for that planned and predictive maintenance. And all of that stuff, as I say, is geared towards supporting our tire management strategies and those two main objectives, being maximizing the investment and minimizing that downtime. And I know I rambled there, but I think it was important to really talk about kind of what Kal Tire does for our customers and how Tom's fits into that. I'll stop talking.
Oh, no, thank you, Mike. But the mistake you made is in explaining all that. Now you've got about 10 questions coming at you. From me.
That's not a problem.
So I looked at it's right on your website. You've got 1.3 billion. You said one set of tires on a cat could be 300,000. You've got 1.3 billion in inventory, and I'm sure that number goes up and down a little bit. 91 sites, 5,800 trucks. It's crazy the amount of maintenance it has on these expensive tires. One of the questions that I have, and I hate to put you on the spot on this one, but
I think you will, though.
I think I will. When I go back through when I see this heavy equipment, not all of it's made to order, so it's coming onto site. You don't necessarily know what tire system. So do you end up? You've got Tom's, but then you have a mix. You don't put the tires on the vehicle when it shows up on site. So what happens when you get someone that's got, they've got Kal Tire tires, they've got a sort of a mix match of tires, and then they've got to change over to Kal Tire tires, and that whole system how does that get integrated in?
Sure. So there's a lot of questions there. So first off, there's not Kal Tire tires. Okay, right. We're a servicing dealer. So and when let's just use the 797. So when a 797 comes onto a customer's site, it doesn't come with tires on it. Partly because it's too large to ship with tires on it. So it'll come what we call barefoot. It's got wheels that need to have tires on it. So we'll work with the customers, as I say, going way back to that site analysis and selecting the right products. We'll work with the customers to make sure that truck, that loader, that grader, whatever it is fitted with the appropriate tires that will work best for that application. And it could be a number of different brands or models or compounds. So we'll make sure that the right one is on there. It doesn't matter what tire is on that truck. The Tom system manages our activities and recognizes all tires and all components on the site, if that answers your question.
Yeah, because I was trying to, because you're not just looking, like you said, there's all the you have all the historical data that Kal Tire has, mining group has built up, but you also have real, like the real world scenario. Are you, with this type of system, are you going into the type of environment it is, the weather, like, or what kind of components, or is it primarily the type of operation it is, or are all these factors coming into play?
Yeah, no, you've done your homework. Yeah, so the system, as part of its predictive maintenance and forecasting that we're trying to achieve, the weather, believe it or not, ambient temperature, rain, snow, heat, all of that plays a factor in the life of the tires, and plays a factor in the selection of the product that you're going to put on there in the first place. So Tom's does factor in all of those different equations as part of our forecasting to understand, how long tires are going to last. There's certainly the historical data, but there's also the historical data that says, based on, this type of input data, it looks like we're going to probably get this much tire life. So all of this just goes into supporting the conversations that we have with our customers to make sure that we're going hand in hand down the path in the tire management strategy, to make sure we're looking at all of the angles and planning as much as we can.
I think, Mike, too, just to interject, I was having a discussion yesterday actually with our manager for Tom's, and looking at a report that for one site that actually can show now predictively when stock will need to be raised and when stock would need to be lowered for tires based on seasonality.
Absolutely.
In the winter, tires perform better. They perform better because it's colder. They don't get as hot. The roads on the mine sites are usually smoother because the snow and ice is there. Where we see tires start to fail and break down is in the spring, where the water starts to get in, and water and tires, they're not a good match. So Tom's allows us to look at that, and we're able to go to that customer to say, you know what, you need to build up your inventory coming into spring, which seems odd because your changes or the problems that are happening aren't happening in the winter. So it may sound counterproductive, but it actually, predictively, it's the right thing to do. Be ready for the summer months when you may need to change more tires. You may need to have more spares or new tires on site. So this is what Tom's provides predictively for us. Just one example.
Yeah, I was seeing some of the graphs, and I was trying to kind of have an understanding of them, and but they're showing. I mean, they're showing when maintenance is done and when it avoided downtime, and I mean, you've got it. It's pretty amazing. I mean, you could probably do a whole show just dissecting Tom's and only be starting it. Um, Dave, I wanted to switch over to the underground versus surface mining, and if anybody watching this show wondered if you love tires, when you said if the tire got an injury,
It hurts. It hurts. We have to make the tire feel better.
um, but the underground verse, and this is not something I have a good understanding. I mean, I've worked in equipment yards with both types of equipment. Is there an actual different approach to the surface operations? Like you already touched on winter versus summer, which is obviously summer is much harder on the tires. But does it switch again once you go underground, and then obviously in the narrow environments? I would think in underground, if a shutdown happens because of a tire in a little narrow mine, you've got a real problem. So, is there a different approach?
I think the premise is the same, which is how do we increase customers' tire life? How do we keep their machines, their availability up and running? So I think that premise is the same. Obviously, the space and the space is different. Obviously, underground surface has more space for tire changes, repairs. Underground may have a portal. It may have a cage. That automatically makes a huge difference in how you do things. If you have a portal, you may be able to do tires on surface. That might be easy. If not, then you're down underground doing tires in a tire shop underground with not a lot of room. Surface trucks, when they veer a little bit off to the side, they just correct and they come back. If they come too close to the berm, they just come back and everyone's okay. You go a little to the side in an underground mine, and you could cut the sidewall of that tire, and you could put that machine down, or rub it and break something else on the machine. So I think just that space is one thing. When you talk about Northern Ontario underground mines, there's still a majority of them running cages. I mean, so tire delivery becomes also an issue, and there could be a whole show on how to safely transport tires, because they can be explodable devices, right? So bringing them to site, preparing them, bringing them down to cage, getting them to the right pressure is very important. So I think it's the approach is the same. The situation can be different. And as Mike said before, when we look at customers and their sites, we take in a whole lot of things into perspective, and that could be temperatures, conditions, road conditions. It could even be as much as operator ability, to understand what compound of tires, what brand of tires, what tire fits that application. And I think being a tire dealer of our size, that is great for us, because we have a large breadth of product. And like Mike said, it's not just about the cheapest, it's not about the most expensive, it's about what fits. So and Mike can talk more about what type of tires underground, because the type of tires underground are totally different than the type of tires above ground, where radials are the king in surface, and that's not necessarily always the case underground.
I was going to ask too, though, on the operation side, again, going back to that example of the cat with $300,000 worth of tires sitting on it, or it's sitting on the tires. The Is there an operational difference? Is surface in the budget of the mine, or is there a difference between an underground's operating cost when it comes to tires as opposed to the surface? I don't want to get too technical, but I'm curious.
No, it's pretty simple. The large tires cost more. So when you talk to a surface mining operation, probably one of their top 5, if maybe top 10, but usually top 5 spend is tires. When you look at an underground mine, obviously that's probably different. They're smaller tires. They don't cost as much. Depending on the compound or what you use, they may last a certain amount, or they could get beat up a lot more. But I think it's just the difference in the pricing is what happens, right? I mean, 63-inch tire, that's a lot of rubber, and it's a lot more expensive than, say, a 25-inch tire. So I think from that perspective, it's different. Obviously, though, the other factor of that is on surface, your tires last longer. You could be 4,000, 6,000 hours on a tire, where in an underground, depending on what the underground condition is, if it's wet, if it's hot, if it's those kind of things, you can have a 350-hour tire, and that could be just what you get out of that mine. Or you could get up to 600, 700 hours on that tire. So it's different. It's I don't want to say it's different, but the same. But it's different. The applications just tell you how different it can be. But at the end of the day, it's the same. How can we make a tire last longer so a customer gets the value that they're looking for?
I actually didn't realize in the open on like the above ground, I didn't realize how that the tire costs were that high into the operation costs. But Mike, over to you on the specifics of the tires. Going still on the underground side, we touched on the surface ones as well, but that sidewall wall buildup, is that in the design tire, or is that like a? I saw that in the notes, and is that something you add to tires? Everybody who knows tires is laughing at me right now, but that's okay. Is it an add-on, or is it the style that the tire is built to?
Right. So I think what you're talking about is the super sidewall. Is that correct, Jared?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So, so what the super sidewall is an underground specific product that that we deliver to our customers, and it comes from our retread department. So if you can imagine taking a regular tire, okay, an underground tire, let's say an underground bias tire. As Dave mentioned, underground tires are far more susceptible to sidewall cutting. And the rifts are narrow, the corners are sharp, so we get a lot of sidewall cutting in underground, far more than surface mining. So the super sidewall is where we take a tire, it could be a retreaded tire, or it could even be a new tire, it goes to our retread facility, and they actually strip line and build up the sidewall. So it's actually got, a bit of a shoulder pad on it, if you will. And then they cure it, and it goes to work with that added rubber buffer on the sidewall, and the result is in the right application. Remember, everything is about the right application, but in the right application, it's a really good product and a really good solution that our retread division is able to deliver.
So it is part of that retread, though, and I
Yep.
it came in. So how does that get decided? That is that going back into that Tom system? Is it, does someone go on site and look at the environment? I don't know.
Absolutely. All of the above. So with there's such a variety, tires, they're tires around and black. No, there's such a variety of tires and compounds and production capability of these tires that you need to really look at not only each location, but even the subsections of each location and the different hauls and the applications that these trucks or loaders are going to be working in. So with the super sidewall, that would come into play where you've got a part of the underground mine that is really damaging to sidewalls, and then because sending it out to the retread shop and adding that additional rubber on it and bringing it back, that's added cost to our customers. So we got to make sure that we're not just doing that because we're doing it. We're doing it for the right reasons in the right application, and it's severe sidewall cutting is where that would come into play.
The other either one of you can answer this question. With mines, I mean, if you watch a show, you'll see automation is just continuously being talked about. A couple of years ago, when we started the show, it was obviously happening, but now it's just like it's just every year it gets more and more part of the industry standard. Does that offer a new set of challenges for someone like the Kal Tire Mining Group? Is it harder on the tires? All these automated systems and even automated trucks, electric trucks. I mean, we had someone on the show years ago or a couple of years ago that they had. Their mines are like on a line, like the buses are on. Is that harder on the vehicles on the tires themselves? Those automated system without the sort of the driver easing up in certain spots and things like that.
Yeah, before I was at Kal Tire, I worked for an equipment manufacturer who, the start of autonomous and battery powered has been going on for some time. As you said, Jared, it took a while for it to catch up, but now everybody is talking autonomous, battery powered, whatever they can. And I think it's still early days for us as tire people to understand what's going to happen, but logically, if a vehicle is running autonomously, that is probably going to be good for tire life. They in an open pit, they need to make sure that the roads are clear, because they can't have the vehicle veer off or those kind of things. So that's one reason. The biggest one, and we used to see this in my old days, is autonomous vehicles in underground. They don't hit the wall. Right? They run at the speed that they're supposed to. That's a big one. So components, tires, all those things, they're not overheating. They're not being run at speeds that they shouldn't be. That automatically will prolong life. The thing that we're not sure yet is sometimes on battery equipment, because the torque is so high, it can shred a tire quicker than what we've seen before, but again, very early days, and we're just trying to see this and put it together. Now, we do have a lot of customers that are running full autonomous fleets, so that data is starting to come in, and with Tom's, we'll be able to figure that out pretty quick.
Yeah, that's going to be. I hope you can come back on and sort of update us on that. Sort of just look at that on a large scale, even globally. Mike, I think you handled one of the remote, and there's a couple things I want to get, but I want to quickly touch on this. And Dave, you touched on it a little bit earlier, that the different areas have different challenges, especially when it comes to repair. But you're still, in the mining industry, it's still remote. So is that, when you're doing all these repairs, is that Kal Tire Mining Group people, or are you training mine operators or their staff to, or you going onto these sites, even in these remote locations and, middle of winter and all this sort of stuff? What's sort of the setup there? Swapping out tires, obviously you try to do it before the, you can't get in there and all that type of stuff. But what's that whole sort of system in these really remote regions?
Yeah, it's the ideal setup is we're actually on-site contractors, so we're performing the service on this equipment. Just to add a little bit of scale, I guess a little bit of scale overall for Kal Tire. Kal Tire has over 7,000 team members globally. About 4,500 of those are in the Canadian business, as we talked about, in the stores and the retread division and the transport division in Canada. But globally, we have about 2,700 mining tire group team members, as Dave says, across 20 plus countries. So those 2,700 team members are for the most part on site, working at our customers' mine sites and supporting the service activities. And so for me, when we're talking remote mine sites and this and that, for me, the bigger question is always, how do we maintain our service standards and our operational excellence in these remote locations and with a footprint this large? And I know that training and standards is kind of dry for your viewers on shows like this, but I want to talk a little bit about this because, sorry?
No, they love that kind of.
Okay, good, because I'm going to talk about it. Yeah, look at my intro. I'm training and standards. I'm going to talk about it. But one thing you might find interesting, and your viewers might find interesting, is that the tire technician trade, and we've got about 2,000 OTR or off the road tire technicians spread across our customers' mine sites around the world, about 2,000 technicians. And with those 2,000 technicians, we do have the bench strength and the reach to help our customers out in some pretty remote locations. And we've gotten pretty good at doing business in some unique areas, let's say. But for me, as I say, it always comes down to how do we maintain those service standards. And the tire technician trade is an uncertified trade. It's not a recognized trade in the industry. It's not a red seal trade in Canada. So for the most part, tire technician training across the world is done in-house by the service provider. And I'll tell you what, I've been with Kal Tire for the better part of 30 years, and 10 of those years as a tire technician. So I know the training program firsthand. And one thing that I really respect and admire about this company is our commitment to the development of our team members and our approach to training. And so I think it is important that we talk a little bit about just how it is that we do train and mentor our team members on a consistent basis across the globe, because I think it's something that's really quite unique to our company and quite a bit different than other organizations in the industry. So I'm not going to belabor this too much, but I do want to give you a bit of an overview of what our training program looks like, if that's okay. So we're talking an OTR, off the road.
I was actually joking, Mike, because if you're coming to my site to take off $300,000 worth of tires, I think I'd prefer some training and safety. Yeah.
Absolutely. Music to my ears, Jared. So what we offer and what we do for our team members is it's a 27-month hands-on practical mentorship apprenticeship program. So what we do is we team up our trainees with a senior technician, just like you would team up an apprentice mechanic with a journeyman mechanic. So we team up our trainees with a senior technician, and that senior technician really guides them through the apprenticeship program over the 27 months. We have an online LMS system, or a learning management system, that houses over 270 online courses that is designed to work and integrate into that 27-month apprenticeship program to bolster that training. We provide training training on the tools that our people are working with, on the tasks that they're going to be performing, and on the equipment that they're working on. All of that in 4 languages, I might add. All of that in 4 languages to support our global operations, being English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And but for me, the key to the training program is that it's a mentor and assessor-based program. And just to expand on that a little bit, depending on the size of the site and the variety of tooling that our team members may be working with, our trainees are required to complete about 50 to 60 specific tasks with assessment throughout their 27-month apprenticeship program. So the trainee will work under the watchful eye of their mentors under each of these tasks that they have to perform up until the point where they're ready to challenge the competency evaluation or the assessment. And when they're ready to challenge the assessment, we bring in a Kal Tire certified assessor. And when we bring in that assessor, the training stops and the assessment begins, because that trainee has to demonstrate that they can complete that specific task safely, unaided, or without the assistance of their mentor, and to the Kal Tire standard. And if they can't complete it safely, unaided, into the Kal Tire standard for that task, they're simply sent back for further training. Those assessments are absolutely what drives our standards and our consistency in our service offering across the globe. And it's something we're really, really proud of. We put a lot into that. So just to wrap up training, in addition to that, the LMS system, it tracks and maintains the training status of all of our team members globally. So at a glance, we can look at any single team member. I'm talking all 7,000 Kal Tire team members, or specifically the 2,700 Mining Tire Group team members. We can look at any single one of them and see exactly what they're trained on, from the tools that they're signed off on, to the tasks that they're signed off on, and to the equipment that they're certified to work on, up until they reach, as I say, that 27-month certified A tire technician, as we call it. It's a program we're extremely proud of. It's all directed at supporting the development of our team members and providing, Jared, as you say, that safe, professional, efficient workforce that we can give to our customers. And I think it really is a difference maker for our company.
Will there at some point, will it be something that you get has there ever been talk of it becoming like a red seal?
You know what? There has been talk. That's a really long conversation. I would love to see it personally. That's kind of where I come from. I'd love to see it. But the last time I've heard that discussion, it just wasn't on the radar screen for Canada to do that.
So if someone comes in that has that experience, so then what do? They sort of like challenging, they sort of challenge the course. Is that sort of how it would work?
If we hire somebody with tire experience?
Yeah, like someone new comes in with tire experience. Then
Yep. Great question. And that happens all the time, for sure. Lots of good people with lots of good experience comes and wants to work with Kal Tire, and we welcome them with open arms, absolutely. But although we will grandfather, we will recognize the 27 months as industry experience, as time in the seat, so to speak. They have to absolutely complete every single one of those competency evaluations to the Kal Tire standard before they're signed off. Absolutely. Yeah. They can just do it at a bit of a quicker pace because they're bringing in that industry experience. But yeah, for sure.
If you want to go viral, what we got to do is we got to get like someone brand new, never, and it's challenging, and then see how they're trying to change the tires while we're doing an interview in the background.
Now, safety first, Jared.
The reason I wouldn't get a job like yours. Okay. I wanted to talk. There's a couple things I probably won't get to, but there is something, Dave. I want to jump over to you for a second for it. Is social licensing, sustainability. I mean, it's a topic that is beyond all of us, especially on this show. Whether you're providing tires, I mean, even building a mine now. I mean, they used to say it takes 10 years. I think now it takes a lifetime. I mean, it's just, there's so much that goes into getting a mine off the ground. And so So Kal Tire Mining Group has been part of that, and I want to just go list off a couple. They've got their recycling program, they've got their maple program, and then the ultra repair as well. Dave, can you just touch on those? Because as we wrap up this interview, I want to make sure we sort of unpack it.
Yeah, great. We love to talk about this because um, you said it. Corporate social responsibility is such a huge part of business these days, and there's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of years in the mining business about a circular economy. And circular economy meaning what can I use that's been used, or what can I do that's renewed? What can I do, to reduce a carbon footprint, or keep things going in that perspective. And Kal Tire has a couple of different ways that we like to participate in that space. One is recycling. The other is a maple program, and the other, then there's a couple different parts of recycling. So I'll start with the maple program and then maybe go into recycling, because the maple program and it ties into recycling as well. But at Kal Tire, we've claimed for a long time our retread and repair products. They're so beneficial to the environment, but we really couldn't quantify what that meant. And I think that's really important, because our competitors, everyone says, oh, our retread product is great, and it really does some good. So what Kal Tire looked to do was really try to quantify what that was. So worked with chemists, rubber chemists, looked at all our records of production, those kind of things, figuring out how tires were made, and the result of that was a carbon calculator. So what we did with that carbon calculator, which is great, but a carbon calculator is still something that we just made, and someone can say, well, I don't believe it. So what Kal Tire did was went to a company called SCS Global, which is a third-party certification company on environmental. So we're actually able to say, if you retread this tire, the offset of carbon would be this much. And then you actually get an accreditation from SCS Global. So companies can use that in their reporting, in their corporate sustainability reports. I've even heard that some customers are now saying that they may be able to use that to actually get money back from carbon credits. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. So that's part of the MAPLE program, and the MAPLE program is quantifying what good comes out of repairing and retreading tires. Where we want to take this is to the next step, is how to quantify that for ultra repair. And ultra repair, when I talked earlier about a severe injury to a tire, I can't get this technical about tires, but there are steel belts in the tires. I think most people know that. And once you get an injury through there, in the past, that tire was done. I mean, once you cut the cords, that was the integrity of the tire. Ultra repair is a unique offering that we have, that the repair actually repairs the cables within the tire and puts the structural integrity back into the tire. So we're trying to figure out as well how that can be calculated into a savings, because if that tire was dead at 300 hours, that would just go into a landfill or into a berm or something like that. The other way we're trying to look at this is from thermal conversion, and I'll talk about thermal conversion when we talk about recycling. How we can capture carbon credits by thermal conversion, recycling of these tires, and also on our on-site service. Mike talked a lot about on-site service and what we do for customers. We believe that there's environmental benefits for us being on site, taking care of tires in that kind of way. So if we look at just the MAPLE program and we say a 29-inch tire from a Cat 8045 underground loader, by retreading that, if the emission values of that tire might be 5.5 tons, if you retread that tire, you probably save 1 ton of carbon emissions. So if you look at that, we'd be able to say, well, that would power a 40-watt light bulb for 9 years. It would, allow a household to be powered for 31 days. Those kind of things, we can put those quantifiable things to it. But most of all, the customer would get that certification that they saved this many tons of CO2. When we look at recycling, that's different, a little bit of a different animal where, look, there's a lot of different technologies out there right now, and I think this is a burgeoning market as well. One section of recycling would be shredding. We have a really great working relationship with Liberty, who's a tire recycler and shredder out of Alberta and BC, where the tires, we send them, customers send the tires to us, we send them to Liberty, they shred them. They can then be repurposed into things like mulch, blast mats, rig mats, fencing, siding. There's a whole bunch of things that they can do. And that's a great thing, right? Your playgrounds, turf, I don't know if you notice in baseball when the black stuff comes up, that's recycled rubber. And that's great. Where I think people are looking, can we do more, is when that mulch is done or when that blast mat is done, can you recycle that again in that circular economy, or does it just go to a landfill? And preventing it from going into a landfill for many years is still a great premise. There's two other ways that we look at it, at least at this point, and one is devulcanization, and the other is thermal conversion. And devulcanization would be tires that have been used and are then shredded into a crumb, is what they call it, and then put into a devulcanization line. And I'm not the scientist here. So a devulcanization line takes that crumb and as it goes through the line, makes it into a rubber. It's almost like a vulcanized rubber. And then what they can do is then add that to an extruder and put that into retreads. So you're essentially using tires that used to be on, say, a giant mining tire. You can devulcanize that, you get it into the crumb, you devulcanize it, and then you can use it again on a grader tire or a loader tire, something like that. And that's a good that's a good example of a circular economy. The third stage that we have is thermal conversion, and this is where we have actually done this. So we have a plant in Chile, and this was spawned from legislation in Chile that says that all tires of 57 inch and up need to be taken care of, repurposed, whatever it may be. They say in Chile they have on the ground 550,000 tons of unused tires. So either customers would bury those or use them for cattle troughs, but there's only so many cattle troughs in the world that you can get out there before you really bury them or burn them. So thermal conversion in the plant that we have set up in Chile, with large kilns, you cut the tire up, you put it in, and through science, which is again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not gonna say that, but it's really, they take away the oxygen and they use heat to put the tire into three different components. One is oil, the other is steel, and the other is carbon black. So those three things come out of this process. The oil can then be further refined. It can be refined down to as far as you want. So it could actually be used again in your trucks, or it could be used to fire kilns, any of those kind of things. The steel obviously is a simple one. You recycle the steel and it's being used again. And then carbon black, which carbon black can be used for a bunch of different purposes. Mostly we see it in computers and TVs and those kind of things, but also can be used in batteries and those kind of things. So there's at least then there's a repurposing. So we have a facility in Antofagasta in Chile, which again, being what the world is what it is now, that the opening of that has been delayed a little bit, but I believe it should be this year that this is open. This legislation in Chile starts in 2021, which will require every mining company to get rid of all the tires that they've used. So when we look at this and devulcanization, there's a whole bunch of these burgeoning fields that are coming up about the recycling and the circular economy of tires, and we're happy to be in this space because we look at it in Chile as we are solving a customer problem. The customer now has a problem that they've got a whole bunch of tires on site and they need to get rid of them. Legislation in Canada is a little bit different, where in the West, 57 inch and above, there is no legislation at this time for that. So customers who do come to us to recycle their tires, they're doing that from their own, I don't want to say from their heart, but from their corporate responsibility that they've got tires on the ground, and they at some point they have to get rid of them. So we're there for that, and I think that's what happened in Chile. Is we were proud to be in the space because, again, it does make us a good CSR partner. But I think also we're solving customer problems, and that's really what at the heart of this is what we want to do, and provide a solution for our customers.
Do you think that legislation, somewhere like Chile that's done it, that will probably eventually spread to legislation across everywhere? Is that?
Yeah, we're seeing that, Jared. I think Colombia is already heading down that path of legislation. Australia has been discussing it, I believe. And not to say that all of Canada hasn't, because Ontario has a recycling program as well. So all those tires, they have government accredited recyclers. So the tires in Ontario have to be sent somewhere. So it just, again, it's in Canada, it'll be interesting to see. It'll probably be a province by province legislation. So that may make it difficult. It may make it easy, but I'm going to probably side on the side of difficult, that each province will want to do things their own way. But I think the big part of this is as we move into this world where recycling is not something foreign to any of us, we believe at some point it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually laid out how the recycling process is done. I mean, I know obviously we aren't getting into a scientific, but just concept in general, because I mean, there has been stories over the last couple of years that people have been putting their little packets in their recycling, and then it's kind of wasn't quite going where they thought it was going. So it's nice to actually hear what the process is for these tires. But and there was a question I wanted to ask to sort of wrap up. Oh, just quickly on that, Dave. Is it without the government legislation and the corporate responsibility, are those sort of the two things that you need to make it happen, or is there a case to be made for it being a good cost-effective thing to be doing as well, or or are we not quite there yet in the industry?
I think it's a hard question to just define in one answer. To me, as owners of business, your corporate responsibility is important. At the end of your mine, you're going to have to figure out what to do with these anyway, right? As your mine closes and you go into reclamation, you're going to have to figure out what to do. So to me, yes, there is a whole legal portion of it, or a legislative portion that's going to make people do it. But I think most companies, they see this as part of their mantra now, right? How they do business is you don't get a permit for mining unless you have a really good reclamation plan. And the days of just poisoning the water is gone, right? I mean, everyone is very environmentally focused on this, and I think mining has become so much more responsible when it comes socially and environmentally that. To me, I maybe I'm being naive, but I think it's just part of what it is that they have to do to be a socially responsible miner.
No, I agree. I think it's right. I gotta, as we wrap up this interview, I've got Mike. I've got to put the last question. We've got we hopefully we'll get you back on the show, both of you, to talk about some of the more technical sides of the operations and things like that. But just the question that I have, and that started when I was probably, I guess I started playing hockey at 7 or 8, going up to Logan Lake. There's a big giant mining truck by the by the hockey rink. So the question is, how do you get a tire off and on that truck? What's the machine that does it? And then question B, next show, do I get to sort of play around with the machine?
Well, okay. So the machine that we use is called a tire manipulator. Okay. So I wish I had a picture of it, but basically a tire manipulator is an attachment that goes on a front of either a forklift or a loader or even a crane truck. And it basically is just two arms like this, and it can grab the tire like this, and it's got pads here, and it can turn it this way or turn it this way and do this. And basically it manipulates the tire to put it on. So if you could imagine changing your tire in your driveway, which you wouldn't, you would take it to Kal Tire and have us do it. But if you imagine changing your tire in your driveway, you're simply grabbing that tire and taking it off. So a manipulator does the exact same thing. You grab that tire, you unbolt it, you deflate it, unbolt it, and take it off. So it's much the same way. It's just a nice big set of arms for you.
I think on the machines though, is there different sizes of these machines, or is it like because you're propping up these giant trucks? I mean, these trucks now are just huge.
Yeah. So the okay, well, you wanted me to go here, Jared. I'm going here. So the jacks we would use would be upwards of 175-ton jacks to jack up the back of some of the largest trucks. So 175-ton jack, and of course, an 175-ton or 150-ton or whatever the capacity rating may be, safety stand to go under it. You have to have a safety stand under these units if you're going to be taking off a tire, just like your vehicle at home. And then we deflate the air out of the tires, because as Dave mentioned, these things are pressurized vessels. So when you're taking tires off, you deflate the air out of them. Then you grab onto the tire with one of these big manipulators, and we'll talk 797. We'll talk some of the biggest tires in the world. So a 797 tire, we're talking here a 13-foot tire. Okay, that weighs in excess with its rim assembly, upwards of 20,000 pounds is what a tire and a wheel weighs. Okay, so the manipulator that you would use for that would typically be some of our Fort McMurray manipulators is a 65,000 pound forklift. So a 65,000 pound rated forklift with probably about a 35,000 pound rated manipulator hand on it that would grab one of these machines or one of these tire assemblies and then take it off. Wow. Now that can go all the way down to, that's the biggest ones. You can go all the way down to, a 980 loader is a typical size for a manipulator with maybe a 20,000 pound hand on it. You can go a 966 loader, anywhere in between loaders, forklifts, crane trucks, depending on what you need to do. If you need mobile service, then you need a big crane truck with an arm on it and a manipulator, so you can take tires out to remote locations and change them in the field.
Do your customers, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody somewhere that's changing the tires, but those tires, do they get changed by you? Like there's not a mine site that's got those machines and doing it themselves, or does it or are there some?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's lots of mines that self-perform, absolutely, and we're talking around the world here. That self-perform, and they would have their own training program and their own equipment, and they would be certainly self-performing on site. Absolutely, it's not we're not everywhere, Jared.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining the show. It's pretty amazing. I always talk about it on the show. I mean, we have consultants coming on, technology companies coming on the show, but it's all the businesses within these operations that to me that have always fascinated me. I mean, if you watch the show, you'll notice that we might do a couple consulting shows, but then I go right back and we try to get that hardware, heavy equipment stuff on because it interests me personally and people just love it. So thank you both for coming on the show and all the prep leading up to it. I mean, Caitlin, for all her work, I really do appreciate Kal Tire taking the time to be on our show.
No, we appreciate you having us. And look, you had a couple more hours. We could get people in that know more than I do about recycling, all those kind of things. Or we could just give it to Mike and he could talk for days about technical things, for sure.
Yeah, I ramble sometimes, but it was a pleasure being here. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk tires.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, Gowdy, that is, we are wrapping up the Crownsmen Show. I'm not even sure what episode this is. I didn't look on my little notes before. And we don't always film them in sequence and release them in sequence. So, but we filmed a lot and we're coming to the end. A lot of people will be watching this actually in 2021. But it was kind of a goal of ours from the beginning. Kal Tire was one of the Kal Tire Mining Group. Was one of the companies I've wanted to have on for a long time. So it's great to have them on. Gowdy, where can people go to follow us?
For a moment, I thought you forgot what you were going to say.
No, I'm just taking dramatic pauses. I don't know why.
No, definitely follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got an episode, actually, like multiple. I think it's like 2 episodes a week.
Many.
Yeah, and that's just minimum. Sometimes we do 3. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to the podcast pretty much anywhere, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Apple Play, I think is what it's called. I don't remember. But yeah, you can pretty much see us everywhere. And thank you to Kal Tire Mining Tire Group for joining us today, Dave, Mike. It was very great to have you on the show. Anything else you'd like to say?
We're doing a panel.
Ooh.
Of course, after Mike and Dave signed off, everybody signed off listening to us. But for anybody who's still hanging on, we're going to do a Crownsmen Christmas panel coming up. Of course, you're watching this in 2021. It already happened. You can go find it. But we're actually going to be having hosts from around the UK, Australia, a couple Canadian hosts that do different shows. So watch for that and make sure to subscribe for when we release that.
For
That's
sure.
pretty much it. And I'm good to go.
Awesome.
That was a fun interview.
One last note, I think, if you would like to be part of the show, whether it's Crownsmen Energy, the Crownsmen Show, or Mining Now, please contact us, info@crownsmen.com. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gowdy. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks again to Dave and Mike. Thank you to Kal Tire Mining Group and all of our sponsors. We will see you on the next episode of The Crownsmen Show.